Okay, I believe we are live.
Yes, we
Hello,
are.
Sabina. Nice to see
Hi,
you.
Phoenix.
Um,
Lovely to see you.
yeah, so thanks for showing up here with me for this next episode of Behind the Mask. Yeah, I just want to say thanks for showing up and being here with me. I know these episodes, yeah, they're really dear to my heart, and they're really edgy as well for my ego to just keep on showing up and trusting in this seed of an idea that just is kind of wanting to be nourished and watered. Um, yeah, and just once again, these shows or like my willingness and decision to show up and do these lives is really to continue like meeting those personal edges and giving myself and those of you who want to come and show up here with me, like to keep giving ourselves permission to show up unpolished, um, raw, awkward, uncomfortable, and just still say, "Hey, I'm here, world," and that's okay. Like we can be messy and we can be imperfectly perfect. And so that's this premise for
Mm.
this behind the mask um, show. I like calling it a show because I've always had this dream of having my own talk show. So this is my my first baby steps into it. So, yeah, I want to just welcome you, Sabina. Yeah, I want to just acknowledge the great part you have in my life currently as a dear friend and
Mm.
ally and working partner. And yeah, she really works behind the scenes and supporting the offerings of dancing freedom and the workshops and the teachings that I put out into the world. And yeah, I just really want to acknowledge the pillar of strength that you've been in my life this past year. um,
Mm.
Even though I know from your perspective you see me as this really empowered, courageous woman. And as I continue
I
to
do.
remind you, yeah, it's really a lot in part from the people who love me and believe in me that blow, that stoke that fire and that give me that strength when I'm like, I can't do it. And that you've been, yeah, such a great ally in my life. So thank
Mm.
you for being here and being my friend and being all the things, all the hats that you wear in this life at this time with me.
Mm. Wow. Thank you so much, Phoenix. It goes both ways, and it's a pleasure and an honor and a gift in my life to be side by side with you, and how magical we have been, that even though we're not in the same continent, we're able to weave this magic together and to have this connection and love and also dreaming and weaving prayers. So thank you.
Mm, nice to see
Hi,
you.
Phoenix.
I'm just getting, I have a little
Lovely to
glitch on
see
my
you.
computer right here. Uh,
Together and to have this. Yeah, I hear that too.
I've got it. I've sorted it out.
Okay,
Yeah.
great.
So I
Talking
apologize.
about going live and on Polish, on unedited.
Yeah, yeah, totally unedited. So I want to get into our theme for today, um, which is, I know, a big journey that you are on, a big journey that I'm on, and a big journey that I'm sure many of us are on, is transitions and transitions as a rite of passage. And
Mhm.
I would like to, yeah, invite you to share what that means for you at this time. Um, I know that
Mhm.
I can speak to my own experience, so I really want to, yeah, really want to honor this journey that you're on at this
Mhm.
time. And if there's anything, if you want to launch into that in some way, or if you would feel more comfortable with me just asking you a question, but let's see where we go.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much. I am so passionate about transitions because I feel like nowadays in many cultures, even my culture, I'm from Mexico, I have realized that we live life very fast paced and we just go through different thresholds in life without actually marking them or making a stop to realize that there's something switching or changing. Just like we observe the seasons changing and we have the spring equinox or the spring sorry, the yeah, the transitions of seasons, and we take a moment to even have a ritual or a ceremony or to acknowledge them. I feel it's important to realize that inside of us there's also seasons changing, and that requires to be acknowledged and eventually even have time to grieve that we're transitioning from one season in our life to another. And I feel that's one thing that connect me to you. Like when we talk about all these changes in life and we show up in the screen and we're like, oh, you look great. Yeah, we see, but deep inside we know that there's a process, there's an inner changing and an inner knowing that we're not the same. Like we saw each other yesterday and today we're like, oh hi, we're here again. But something switched, something continues to evolve because I see transitions as a soul evolution. And sometimes people around us can see them, and sometimes they are so quiet and just so tender and dear to us that not everyone can see them, but not because they cannot see them, they are not happening.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you. And yeah, and like we were talking about before we got on the call, it's not necessarily about the details because sometimes the details are still in process. They're still unfolding. They're still really tender, really deep, really
Mhm.
personal. And that's okay. Like I know I've been going
Mhm.
through some really big, huge transitions as well. And I've been sharing a little bit, but it's like the depths and the ins and the outs and the details, as much as we know they will support people in future, the people that we work with, the people that come into contact with us, it's still like I think really important to honor the tenderness and the sacredness of this
Mhm.
very personal and
Mhm.
private journeys that we are
Mhm.
on, while simultaneously being able to kind of take a moment to kind of glean the gems and the teachings that are arising in the face of them. And so I really wanted to honor and acknowledge that we don't need to get into the details of the like the grit and the really tender parts of what's in process for you or me. However, like what are some of the like yeah, what are some of the treasures and some of the reminders that have really been um, pillars as you've been unfolding, unfurling, unraveling, emerging? Um,
Mhm.
yeah, yeah, and like some of the
Mhm.
feelings that come with transitions, because, like you say, it's like we see somebody in one moment and we can be like, wow, you look great, without actually knowing the hardship and the effort and the like crawling our way out of these abysses that we enter into inevitably as we are kind of allowing old forms to die. Though I feel like what's really important is to acknowledge how we choose to meet how we choose to meet ourselves, and the uncertainty
Mhm.
when one form is
Mhm.
dying and a new one is yet to be birthed.
Mhm.
So I'm curious if you'd be
Mhm.
open to sharing a little bit of that, like window into your internal reality of how it's been, during this time of shifting,
Mhm.
being in this liminal void
Mhm.
space at this time.
Mhm. Mm. That's a very deep question, and I feel I want to start by saying like one of the main transitions that happened to me was 2 years ago when I was able to shift my limiting beliefs of all the things that I was not able to do in the belief that, oh, maybe that's not for me, or the way I grew up or the way I was raised was not allowing me to go and to move forward for my dreams. And one of these things happened the way I met you. I always love and enjoy dance, but I actually never saw myself as someone that could gracefully just dance in a dance floor and reclaim the wisdom of my body and actually call into the spaces my own power, my own energy, my own playfulness of just being there in the presence with others and dance. So when I found Dancing Freedom, I was living in the States and I realized this training was all across the world in Australia. And for me, just transitioning and crossing from my house with my suitcase in order to go to another country to take a training with someone that I've never met before in my life, only probably in another life, you, and just going there, it was that transition of leaving behind who I was, which yeah, was someone that wanted to dance but was not willing to take the next step into jumping into the unknown and be like, this is the dream I want. I may not have experienced before, but I can follow my heart, and my heart is guiding me and actually taking me into getting my ass out of my house, finding this training, going all the way to Australia, and all the unfolding that happened just from switching that mentality from the I can't, I don't know if I will be able, to I am here and I'm showing up and I'm just following my heart. And my heart took me to find Dancing Freedom and the others. And ever since that, just creating this solid practice that really supports me into the unfolding of who I am now. Which, by the way, I want to say that in the past months, I have evolved and I have reclaimed a new name. And this new name comes with all the teachings and all the wisdom, and of course, all the tears and the pain of reclaiming this incarnation that I want to be in this body. And at this time, I feel like around us there's so much going on, and there's so many shiftings and paradigms just changing, and the world is evolving. So why not having an evolution that goes also from the inside to the outside, so that we can dance with the others that are also doing deep inner work. And I see it like with people I love and people I keep meeting. The more we empower ourselves to just show up and be who we really are, the more we're able to attract Soul Tribe. And it just so happened that that Soul Tribe also resonate with the peeling layers and just transitioning into their best version. And for me, I feel like transitioning is exactly that. It's a soul initiation, but it's also a bridge into showing up into your most authentic self.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and as we know from experience, it's like, you know, casting the arrow, or like throwing the stone into the future version of self. It's like all good and beautiful as an idea, and there is this, I can say for myself, this like soul knowing that yes, like that's where I need to go, and I need to say yes to this next step. And it's like that impulse that arises to take that next step. Sometimes, I mean, it can be the most difficult decision, but in some way it's almost like the very next step that I know I need to take, though I don't really think about like what is going to come in the wake of making that decision. And I feel like that's where the real work comes in. You know, it's like saying yes to taking the next step into the space of transition is one thing, though then the kind of what needs to occur inside of ourselves as that new, as we recalibrate to the new kind of frequency that we're stepping into, or that new version of self that we know is ready to emerge. And that's, for me, that's like where the real challenge comes. Yeah, it's like, wait a
Mm.
second, there was something inside of my soul that was just like, this is who I am and this is the step I need to take. But then the ego is just like, wait, what's happening? I don't understand. And the mind cannot understand. And I feel like this
Mm.
is that that rite of passage that you kind of
Mhm.
speak of, or that we're like
Mhm.
invoking as a deeper, as a deepening understanding, is that this rite of passage is not something that we can control or something that we can
Mhm.
contrive. It really is an experience of surrender and trusting
Mhm.
in the initial impulse that led us to take that step into
Mm.
version of self. And
Mhm.
yeah, like I would really like to hear how this journey has been for you. You know, it's one thing to be like, yeah, I'm going to say yes to this
Mhm.
next version of myself, or I'm going to say yes to this new name, or I'm going to say yes to leaving my familiar ground and going back to Mexico for a time being, even though I don't know what the
Mhm.
is about to
Mhm.
unfold, you know? And so it's like, what happens, what is happening internally in this
Mm.
mysterious unearthing and unfolding for you?
Mm. Yeah. Well, as you say, it's not always easy. There's a lot of inner work, shadow work. I feel it's important to say that not everything is going to be always love and light and boom, just only bloom. Like, no, it's not like that. There's a whole process. And it feel everything starts with composting and actually feeling that a part of you is dying. And how can you allow yourself to grieve that that was the old version of you, and at the same time as you grieve that version, honor that thanks to that version you are able to evolve into the next one. Because when we talk about rites of passage, transformation is something that we don't really can mark as easily. It's not like life transitions, like you grow up, you get married, you have a kid. Like those things, we can even mark them and have ceremonies for that, and everyone can actually see them and understand them because there's frameworks that support that, or specific ceremonies that support and allow that to even happen. But when there's an inner transformation that it's only about you, your soul, and great spirit, it's harder to actually come with some kind of milestone to represent that. And at least for me, that's the most difficult part, to know that something inside of me have shifted, have changed. But then the people around me, the people that have been containing me and supporting me, continue to see me in the old version. And it's like, how can I show up for the others that still see the old version, and without fighting them that, hey, look at me, I'm no longer the same. Like, you see me from your own level of perception, but my perception have changed. So for me, that's a very tricky one. How can we meet our loved ones when we no longer feel like the old version?
Mm. Yeah, and I I've been witnessing you, so I have been seeing, you know, especially being back in like Mexico and your old hometown with your family, and I know I
Mm-hmm.
felt that when I was back in the States last year after my dad passed away, and even now, like being back in Australia surrounded by familiar faces and familiar spaces, and it's like not wanting to fight for like who I've become, though it's like, yeah, I think even in that it's an honoring of self, and that even causes a lot of confusion in me personally. It's like, wait, I know I've come a long way, like fuck, I must have come a long way. I've been doing so much of what you call shadow work and this deep unearthing and excavating of self, and it's like where the external validation, it's almost like I have to let go of that need for external validation. And in that, continuing to lean into who I know myself to be, and who and my own connection to spirit, and my own connection to my commitment to let go of the old version of self, and really having to strengthen my sense of inner validation, um,
Mm-hmm.
that I feel personally has been the most challenging thing, because there's so much doubt that arises, and so much, like, especially when I feel myself, like, I don't know what's really different on the outside. There's nothing to there's no milestone or certificate that says you've arrived, or like, well done, you've made it through the
You're
next
here. Welcome.
level. It's
Yeah.
just like, fuck, I know I've let go of a lot. And I know it's been a really arduous, painful, challenging journey. And yeah, I'm curious again, it's like, how do you meet yourself when there are these doubts, when there are these confusions, when there are these fears? Like, obviously I
Mm-hmm.
can speak for myself, though I'm here interviewing you, and I really want to give you that space to acknowledge, acknowledge
Mm-hmm.
the strengthening that happens in the willingness to meet the shadow, so if you
Mm-hmm.
can give me a little window, give us a little glimpse into that, if you feel
Mm-hmm.
comfortable
Yeah.
doing so. Because
Yeah,
it's
I
not all
do.
shiny, it's not shiny, it's not love and light, it's not all
Mm-hmm.
polished. The willingness to meet
Mm-mm.
oneself in our own mess.
Mm-mm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and being in the cocoon is definitely not always pretty. You say that once, it's gooey and it gets uncomfortable and sticky, and sometimes like you want to get out, but it's not time yet. And I feel, at least for me, um, yeah, sometimes I don't have enough patience to wait to see the unfolding and the whole process happen. I just wanted to be there and to remove the discomfort. But I feel that's where the biggest teachings, at least for me, have happened. The moments that I can just sit with what is present, what it's alive. And yes, it hurts. Yes, it's going to be uncomfortable. But the more I can like move that energy, the more I can stay open and receptive to my own inner process, I feel like the more strength I will gain whenever the time comes to actually like open that cocoon and move that energy. And something I really like to do, and it's something like you and I love, is prayer. I feel like holding up to my prayers, to my visions, to knowing that there's a compass out there. Like even when I feel lost, when I feel like I am all alone, that no one is there, I just need to go back and remember, like, as long as I have my body, as long as I have my dreams, and as much as I can continue to nurture and be the fire keeper of my own fire, like I feel like that's how I can move through humanness and this experience that I chose to to create and to come. Like if I am here in this human body right now talking to you and to the ones listening to us, it's because we took it. Well, I took a conscious choice to be alive, and just holding into that, knowing that I chose to be here, I chose to be alive, and just to stick to knowing that I want to be in service and I want to be surrounded by the things I deserve, I want, and I want to be doing in life, is like what helps me to hold into the times that everything feels messy or unknown.
And I want to acknowledge what a courageous what a courageous act that is. It's like, it's one thing to say we want to be different, it's another thing to say, like,
Mm,
I want to change, though it's a whole
mhm,
entirely different experience to make the decision to go through the process, like to literally enter into our
mhm.
own death, and allowing the things
Yeah.
that no longer serve us to fall away, like continuing to show up in the face of that. I personally
Mm,
believe, is one of the most courageous acts of being human. And it's not something that we have so much, like, we don't see that as something that's celebrated, as something that's like even revered, and encouraged, because
yeah.
we live in a
Mhm,
culture, unfortunately, we live in a culture that profits from our numbing. It profits from us numbing out and running from our own inner transformation. Like it's literally the
Mm-hmm.
information that's coming at us from every direction is telling us that, you know, we're not good, we're not worthy, we're not capable, our dreams are not possible, you know, so let's just like buy this thing and that'll make it all better, you know. So to deny the
Mm-hmm.
external world that is like encouraging us to stay small and stay broken versus like
Mm-hmm.
entering deeply into
Mm-hmm.
the brokenness, you know, and allowing
Mm-hmm.
that brokenness to be, you know, like that famous quote, where the light gets in through the cracks, you know, having the courage to sit
Mm-hmm.
in the brokenness, like holding on to that
Mm-hmm.
prayer or that inner knowing that knows that the light is inevitably going to enter, I believe is such a courageous act. And yeah, I celebrate that in myself. I celebrate that in you. I celebrate that in all the others that I'm like, you know, that we are kind of looking for and magnetizing towards us, because this is the work.
Yes.
This is the work of being human. This is the work of healing the wounds and the traumas that we carry inevitably, being part of a, you know, a collective web that has its
Mm-hmm.
shadows, you know,
Mm-hmm.
being willing to sit in the dark and allow that inner fire that you say you're tending, you know, that inner fire that we're
Mm-hmm.
tending to be the light that guides us through the dark, and to inevitably be the light that will then draw other people towards us so that we can support one another to tend to that collective fire, so that we can keep moving through these personal transitions and these bigger transitions that we're sharing, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and be those fire keepers and those fire bringers. Like, I just, that shit turns me on. That turns me on. And yeah, and I
Me
just
too.
love,
Yeah,
go
sorry,
ahead.
just thinking that we are being the midwives of our own soul in order to collectively give birth to a new world, to this new era that we want to live and bring in. Yeah, it also turns me on.
Yeah, because it's like I have a sense that we each have a seed inside of ourselves. You know, I learned a couple of months ago this new word, entelechy, which is like the original blueprint that is contained within everything. So like for example, an acorn is inevitably going, like it has all of the intelligence inside that little seed that
Mm,
inevitably will grow it into an oak tree, you know. And I feel
mm,
like we each have that inside of ourselves, and there's always this voice inside, or this kind of calling, or this yearning, this longing to become who it is we are inevitably here to be. However, like the
mm,
seed, you know, like getting buried into the dark, or having to be like experience extreme heat to crack open, or the water that softens it to crack open and bust through, it's like it's not a pretty pleasant journey, though. It's like I can't
mm,
even, there's nothing more exciting to me than to become what it is I'm destined to be. and
mhm,
and I feel like that's the beauty of entering, willingly entering into our own personal transitions, you know, like
mm,
willingly entering into, like, yes, I am a willing participant to become what it is I'm destined to be. It's just
mm, absolutely.
so cool, and it's can be really scary and really
Yeah,
confronting.
of course, not it's not always easy to cultivate that curiosity to push yourself into finally stepping in your power and finding or listening to your soul's blueprint in order to know what's your biggest potential here.
Yeah.
Yeah, it takes time and energy.
And what would you say have been or continue to be some of like your greatest tools and your greatest allies that support you in this transition, you know?
Mm. Well, having mentors like you, having friends, um, yeah, pushing myself to find the others. I believe it's very important that there are things that we cannot change, probably our family outcomes or some of our relationships. But what we can do is like find ways that our soul can resonate into finding the others that can actually understand us. So when you talk about that validation, like how beautiful and relieving it is when we can be in relationship with and to someone that we don't need to constantly be fighting about finding that, yeah, that connection of approval or acknowledging. It's just like I show up, this is who I am, and no questions asked, like. And I have been doing that social experiment here the moment I came back to my home country in Mexico, after switching from my old name, my birth name, from Mariana to Sabina. When I meet new people, I no longer say like, oh, that used to be my name and this is the story. It's like, this is who you see. I'm Sabina. Hi, nice to meet you. And there's no questions asked. People are not asking me like, hey, did you change your name? You look different like 3 days ago. Like, no, this is who you are presenting. And then there's the opportunity to create that new story. And by no means I'm trying to hide who I was before or all my wounds or my like scars. It's just like when they have soaked into my soul for a while, I'm able to just embody that and show up that way.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, I feel, yeah, I really celebrate that. I celebrate that. And I celebrate being one of the others that can remind you, and that can kind of reflect. And that I think is the beauty of like finding the others. My dear brother Ragnar, he passed away nearly 2 years ago now. And that was what he said to me all the time: find the others, find the others, find the others, like that was his mantra. And yeah, I hear him speaking through my heart and so often reminding me to find the others, which is another reason why I keep on putting myself out there. It's like, where are the others that can just simply be here, like be here walking alongside me? We're walking alongside one another. Like nobody can do my inner work, just like I can't do your inner work or somebody else's inner work. Like that's like our sacred responsibility, is to do our own inner work. However, having other reflections around us, other courageous beings who are willing to go into their own shadows and reveal, unearth these like precious gems that are hidden inside of ourselves. It's so it's so powerful, and it's so understated in like our bigger world, like the nuclear family
Right.
being really kind of contained versus like the village, which again in rite of passage, kind of returning to this theme of rite of passage, like that's what makes the rite of passage so powerful traditionally in traditional cultures. It's like we leave the village, but the village is there like holding down the energy,
Yeah.
holding the prayers, holding the vision for like one version of self to leave, and kind of holding the space for a new version of self to return. And I feel like that's what we're doing for ourselves. It's like it is part of that original blueprint. Like we are relational beings, and we do need one another. And though we may not have been born into a village setting, it's like as we make this decision, as we continue to stand in the decision to find the others and be a magnet for the others to find us, and keep our eyes open to find the others, it's like we're reinventing, like we're um yeah, like we're recreating that village for ourselves, because it
Mm.
is powerful and potent part of the rite of passage to be witnessed, and and to be acknowledged for the efforts, and the shifts that have we've undergone. And yeah, I love being part of your village, and I love that you're part of
Mm.
my village.
Of course, you are a very, very important part of my village, Phoenix. Thank you so much. And it's been so healing for me to have you rooting for me the same way I am rooting for you to succeed.
Yeah, yeah, in the same way that, as we continue to expand our web of connection to people who are also on this journey for themselves, it's like I'm part of your village, whoever's out there doing this work. Like I want to witness that as much as I know I need to be witnessed, because I know that it is this personal journey, though it's also in the witnessing that it like makes it more real, because we're all
Mm.
here kind of, um yeah, like consciousness becoming aware of itself.
Mm. Absolutely.
Yeah. So
Yes.
I want to kind of wrap it up, because I really value and honor people's attention and bandwidth, which is why I aim to keep these palatable, bite sized, so people can be here with us and stay with us and present. Because as we know, our attention is such a highly coveted resource. Um, so I just want to
Yes.
offer a few more moments if there's anything else you want to share around this theme, this topic, anything really that inspires you to be shared right now.
Mm. Mm. Yeah, I just want to say how grateful I am to be able to have ritual and ceremony for these transitions. I feel they are key and pillars in just the remembrance of how our ancestors used to do this. Just as you say, we come together, we have the container, we witness, we mirror, and we heal in community. No matter how much the world is going to transition, I feel it's important that we continue to call the others and to be there for the others, because there's big transitionings happening. And how can we be compassionate to others around us in the same way that we're trying to be compassionate for our own transition and our own healing?
Mm,
So let's bring the light so we can continue to find the others. We are right here, and yeah, just looking for more light.
mm, mm. Thank you so much for
Hmm.
showing up and sharing with me. It's such a pleasure and an honor to, yeah, kind of go deep in to the dark and like emerge, and
Hmm.
want to share, want to
Hmm.
share, because I feel like there's so much inspiration that we can resource from one another when we're willing to show up with all of
Hmm.
ourselves, not just the shiny
Hmm.
bits, but also those tender bits, those like still in
Yeah.
progress bits. Because I feel,
Yeah.
yeah, like this is part of the human journey, like welcoming all of it.
The
So,
full spectrum of human emotions. Yeah.
yeah. Yeah. Well, thanks
Well, thank
again.
you.
And
Thank you, Phoenix.
yeah, and if it's cool, maybe I'll on the bottom of this post, I can post your website. Sabina is an amazing psychedelic integration coach, um,
Thank you.
and dancing freedom facilitator, and all around awesome medicine woman. Though her speciality is in supporting people who are preparing to enter into psychedelic experiences, and also to support them on the other side as these psychedelic experiences are rites of passage. She's an excellent
Hmm.
guide, and so if it's cool with you, I'll post your website so that if people want to connect with you more deeply and seek your support as one of the others in their lives, that they may.
Yes, please. I'm very grateful for that and welcoming and receiving. Thank you.
Yeah, beautiful. Much love, sister. I'll talk to you soon.
Hmm. Much love to you too. Bye.
Ciao.